Welcome back. You're still with Perspective and Film Kind. Indonesia, the archipelago itself, is on the way between Australia and the continent, for example. And we've got a lot of complaints from down unders that we're letting people pass through in boats. People who are seeking better life or asylum, whatever they are, their reason are. But for us Indonesian, it's been a very tough case to deal with, because these are passing people. They don't intend to settle in Indonesia. So for us, it's a lesser problem, so to say. But for Australia, I'd say the other way around. You shouldn't let them pass through. Where should Indonesia be there?
In this case, that's a great question, because obviously this flow of migrants, who are coming through Indonesia's waters, trying to get to Australia, escaping conflict in places like Libya, Afghanistan.
But there are
Iraq.
also economic refugees in that sense.
No doubt, no doubt. But if you take a look at the nationalities of many of these people, they come from some of the most horrifically conflict-ridden countries on the globe. So these are, to a large extent, these are people who are in desperate circumstances. And our view of this is that that Indonesia and Australia both need to respect their obligations under the United Nations High Convention for Refugees. And it has very specific criteria for how you deal with these people when they come to your shores. With regards to Indonesia, we recognize Indonesia is shouldering a burden in terms of taking many of these people on. But we're concerned that actually you have large numbers of children who are coming through on their own, who end up in these detention facilities.
On their own?
Very often on their own. And so they are denied the ability to go to school.
Sure.
They're, they're very vulnerable to exploitation and abuse in many ways. And we've been urging the Indonesian government to live up to its international commitments to ensure that children, specifically migrant children, are protected and are not put in such situations.
Together with the adults, for example, in prison or in detention.
Exactly. And to, also to allow access, for example, the High Commission for Refugees, to allow them to interview them to find out whether they are legitimate refugees and candidates.
Doesn't Indonesia give that?
The fact is that the government's stance on this is mixed, and it's not uniform. And it's something that needs to be standardized in order to ensure that abuses aren't occurring. But this is something that is one of our ongoing advocacy points with the Indonesian government, and we hope that they will improve.
What are you suggesting in there for the government to do?
I think
besides like assuming the obligation they have under the convention, but what the government is arguing a lot of time is that this is not solely our responsibility. It has to be an international community efforts, and by that they mean that we need also the financial support to actually provide the proper care that you have to accord. Do you agree with that?
This is an international issue, and
but it has never been so in terms of practicalities.
The fact is that there are mechanisms by which the Indonesian government can get support from UN agencies in being able to deliver on its commitments to these people. So it's not so much a black and white, resources issue. There are ways to finesse this to ensure that the rights of those people are protected.
And also, no matter how good the intention is, Indonesia is not even capable of controlling its maritime border alone yet. If people are coming through it, I mean, it's obvious that there are certain routes that you have to follow, but I think for Indonesia it is also not always the case that they're being able to stop them on time, for example. No.
This is a huge country, and there's a lot of water out there.
I know.
And we recognize that, and I think it's reasonable to give, in many cases, the benefit of the doubt that people are going to slip through. At the same time, I think that the government needs to be very vigilant about people trafficking. The fact is that there are people who make money and find it very lucrative to process people through here. Obviously, there's corruption involved. So this is another issue that the government needs to, it also shows the necessity for a strong corruption eradication commission of some kind to be able to look at those issues and to put a stop to them. And so, yeah, it's
So
not
halting those who are actually facilitating this what's it called, transfer? Not
exactly. I mean, there are various individuals and agencies of many types who are facilitating this as a transit point. So it's not something that's just the fault of these people who are trying to get to a certain location. They're being facilitated and trafficked in many ways.
Right. Just before we close this, you're very optimistic about Indonesia being able to like follow through on its reform in human rights?
You know, Indonesia has come such a long way in such a short time. And I think that this is a credit to the resiliency of the Indonesian people that they have been able to make this transition. And that if they have been able to make the types of changes in their society that they have since 1998, we cannot underestimate their ability to overcome these current challenges. I'm confident that the Indonesian people and the Indonesian government can do it, but it takes political will to do it. And so really it's in their hands. But this is not a situation to be pessimistic. This is a situation just requires focus, commitment, and doing what needs to be done according to your own laws, your own constitution, and to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and other instruments that Indonesia is committed to fulfilling.
Okay. Thank you very much for your insight. I hope it was interesting. And we will see us again in the next program. Thank you very much.
Thank you.